And standing on the sidelines, it appears to most that we do the same thing every year. We grow crops, we raise livestock. But to those of us involved, not one year ever seems the same. Markets, weather, global trade, regulations, all keep the agricultural roulette wheel turning. How do we place our bets? Did we make the right decisions? On behalf of Producers Cooperative, we bring you another year of From the Ground Up.
High beef prices in recent years caused the supply of beef to be increased, finally resulting in more supply than demand, and the cattle roller coaster has started down.
We're going through one of the biggest breaks that we've ever seen in our industry now on our live cattle, and things are going to be more volatile, and we'll probably never see our cattle markets in like we did a few years ago, that you can kind of plan things and know more about what's going to happen. They're going to be more volatile now with world markets, and with all the technology and information that we have today, our market's going to be more volatile now than they've ever been.
Growing crops in an unpredictable and distorted world market is more risk than most Americans would be willing to take on.
For a long time, farmers were primarily producers of their commodity in their region of the country. And that's what they were concerned about, weather risk, price variability, and everything. Now, production is still a very important part, but it's one piece. Regulatory compliance, market volatility, government programs, financing, and then being able to make the adjustments on an ongoing basis. Because one of the biggest differences between the very top farmers is timing. When we get in, when we expand, when we hold.
The figures are astounding. If I was been told, when I got out of school in '92, what kind of numbers, the dollars, the volume of money that we're moving in and out and through, I would have said this is way over my expertise level. But it's just something we've grown into. I'm not only the producer, I'm also the salesman, the marketer. I'm the input buyer. I'm the supply buyer.
Our weather affects our decisions. It is always part of the story. Too little, too much. But it is always part of the story. Fall rains put a damper on the winter wheat crop.
Normally, if we get a rain, we can get back in the field in a matter of a few days, but as saturated as our soils have been through the fall, a few days turned into sometimes a couple of weeks, so we had very limited opportunity. Continued rains caused planting to be started, stopped, delayed, or canceled.
What here is today's the 17th of February, and we need to start planting. It was so wet that we couldn't get in the field, and
there's no way I can get that ground in shape to plant soybeans. And besides that, most of the soybeans, they should have been planted by now.
This year we planted some milo. We quit because of the rain. I think 10 days later we got started back, planted a little more, and then the same way with our cotton.
The heavy rains also impacted cattle.
We've got fences around here that are washed out, that are 5-wire fences, which would make them about 52 inches high, and they're washed over. Last week I had cattle that was stranded. We had some high spots. They were 2 days before I could get them moved to the ground. In 11, we had the worst drought that we ever had. Now this is 16. 5 years later, you've had the worst floods.
World demand has a positive effect on our markets. Let's make sure they know our beef is the best.
Our mission is to build beef demand as the most trusted and preferred protein source there is. That's the job of the Texas Beef Council. 4% of the world population lives in the U.S. 96% of the people that could potentially be eating beef live outside of the United States. So because of that, we are very heavily involved in international marketing.
Let's also make sure the folks right here in the U.S. get the same message.
Beef got a really bad rap at the early stages, and all of this was perpetuated on bad research, And we have done nothing but prove the opposite with sound research from the best universities across the country and the world that beef is an extremely nutritional product, very healthy for you.
At any age, you can build muscle with beef, you know, with the protein in it. And if you have the protein and you have the strength to be able to take care of yourself, and you know, a lot of these nursing homes could be emptied out if we could change the dietary habits of the elderly people.
You know, a lot of people don't want cattle production, don't want us eating meat, but they'd prefer us eating grains and vegetables. And there's nothing more natural than cattle. The good Lord didn't plow up the earth, we did. The only thing that was here without human intervention was ruminant animals. And so the best thing we can do is use what was blessed on this landscape to its best advantage.
Agriculture is big business in Texas, but most don't know it.
You take Texas, which is the second largest economy in the United States and actually the 12th largest economy in the entire world. I mean, that's hard to imagine. Texas exports more product for value out of the state than any of the other 49 states. It's really amazing that a lot of people don't appreciate how much agriculture provides to this economy in the state of Texas.
We're no longer just competing with our West Texas neighbors or our Southeast neighbors on cotton production. It's Pakistan, it's China, it's the world. No question, a worldwide market. You have to be in tune with the world's production and supplies and demand needs in order to be competitive. It's a full-time job, no question about it.
Our abundance is taken for granted, and other countries would like nothing more than to see the United States fall off the world stage in agricultural production. We can't let that happen.
What is food security? Food security means you can go to the store and buy a hamburger when you want it. You can go to the restaurant and they have food to serve you. It's a wholesome food system, a nutritious food system. It's the envy of the world, and we as Americans need to be proud of that. We're the largest exporter of agricultural products in the world, and we play a big part in food security for everybody. It's a great peril to our society if we don't produce our own food.
Most regulations are created with good intentions, many times to stop the one or the few. But as time goes by, it becomes foggy. Who are we protecting? And who are we penalizing?
We've gotten away from common sense, and we've allowed those that just want to make it difficult to farm and use technology.
We're overseen by many, many regulatory agencies that want all of our information and all of our attention, whether it's Farm Service Agency or TSEC or EPA or OSHA.
I get real stirred up about the environmental movement today. And what people don't realize is that I am the ultimate environmentalist. We are the stewards of this beautiful creation, and we would never do anything that would harm that environment. And it has nothing to do with, well, it's going to cost us or not cost us money. We're doing it because it's the best for the land and it's the best for the animal.
Texas and Southwest Cattle Raisers Association was created to stop cattle rustling. But Pete Bonds tells us they also have another role.
Stop the damn thieves in Austin and Washington for stealing your property rights, your way of life, and water, and anything else they can think of. I was in a meeting with the head guy for this region with EPA. I even offered to buy him a Webster's dictionary where he could look up and see what navigable waters mean. He is the guy that got caught on tape saying that running the EPA is no different than having a Roman army. You march into town, you crucify some Christians, and then the rest of them come in line. He was fired over that, thank God, but that really shows you the mentality of that agency.
First of all, the EPA is way outside the scope of congressional intent. It's way outside the actual language of the statutes. And so I think that if we can get the courts to look at the Clean Water Act, that we'll be successful in getting a decision that says that EPA doesn't have the authority to pass the WOTUS rule the way they've written it.
Our ability to produce our food and fiber is being handcuffed, one small bite at a time.
Regulatory agencies, every Friday afternoon after the news services have finished for the weekend, they put out a dump of thousands of pages of new regulations, so there's no transparency.
Safe, sound, abundant food. Why would anybody be against that?
There's probably 4 or 5% of the anti-technology people, and it's fine with me if they want to be anti-technology, but they're trying to influence this vast middle section, probably 80+% of the population that really knows nothing about agriculture.
The fact is, we have so few people that understand agriculture today. They think meat comes from a shrink-wrapped container in the grocery store, or they get a nice box that has cereal in it, and they don't understand all the upstream activities that happen in order to produce that. GMO it should be viewed favorably, not unfavorably.
In Africa or South Asia, where a cup of rice with a few peas in it might be their main meal of the day. We can do better than that. We can produce more food, and we can do it more inexpensively than we have. And we have people that are under extremely affluent situation in their life determining what happens to somebody that's close to starving to death. That's just morally wrong.
Education continues to be on our must-do list.
I find that there are people that are very passionate about their beliefs towards agriculture, but I find that a lot of them that have negative opinions towards it are very ignorant. They don't have the knowledge that they think they have. They're not involved, and so they just don't know. And reaching out to them and exposing them to different things makes them ask questions.
Why are we taking care of the water in certain ways? Why are we taking care of the land in certain ways? That we're doing the best thing for the land and for the water. And it's hard for somebody that hasn't been around it, hasn't grown up around it, for them to fully get the breadth of the complexity, because this is a complex operation, because not only are we taking business into account, but we're also having to take science and biology into account. The problem is that there's now also a lot of people that are putting out some bad negative press about where the food comes from. So for us as the producers, we have to get engaged in that conversation, because the best part is, and what I've learned from my friends, from my experiences of living outside of this industry, is that if you talk to them, they trust us.
The use of technology is imperative, and we must embrace it. But teaching our youth to work with their hands to build something is equally important.
They learn how to take something and build something with their hands. In this country, we're in trouble with that, okay? We don't need foreign countries building it. We have a lot of talent here, and we're just not using it.
It is a concern that education learned from hands-on experience is disappearing in today's society.
There was a stupid person standing there, and it was not my father. He had more sustainable information about his environment that he had been managing than he could have gotten with a doctorate degree from Yale. But it came to him through his hands. He learned by doing. And society, for some reason, has decided to discount that knowledge base, and they continue to discount at their own peril.
As with all generations, it is the next generation that we put our hope in.
It's different than any other class you have. They don't teach you what is this word or what is this math equation. They teach you gratitude and how to be thankful for what you have and where it came from. And when you're sitting in that classroom, that's a powerful thing to teach a kid, is how to be thankful. It's not something that you come by very often anymore either.
A quote worth repeating: every one of us that's not a farmer is not a farmer because we have farmers. We delegate the responsibility of feeding our families to a relatively small percentage of this country. That is an incredible freedom that we take for granted.
Farmers are kind of funny. We continue to do it, whether there's a profit that we can pencil in or not, and hopefully through yield or price increase we'll be able to manage this year. But the thing about agriculture is that you can't, every year is not going to be profitable. We're in the food business. All we grow here is food. We grow it on the hoof, we grow it out of the ground. And all we're doing is making food so that we can feed the American people, and for that matter, a lot of the rest of the world.
always tell people I've lived two of the most honorable professions there are, one providing health care for people and one providing nutrient value for people. And so I feel very fulfilled in those roles.
The seasons are changing, and it's time to do it all over again.
I'm at peace most if I'm out here working the land.
I don't guess I ever was given a choice, but if I had been, this would have been my choice.
I'm very proud. I love doing what I do. That's why I do it. When we get off into the middle of the wrecks that we're in, like right now, that you can just hold your chin up high and know that there is going to be a better day up the road.
Was thinking about the word producer. You know, I'm not sure that there is a better or more honorable title in America than to be called a producer. I call myself a producer, call yourselves producers. It is something that is quite significant for a man or a woman through hard work and ingenuity and sheer stubbornness to make something or make something better. That's the definition of a producer. And you should be proud of that, and this country is better off for that.
We are the face of agriculture. We feed America, we help feed the world, and we are pretty damn proud of that. And we hope that you are too.
God is great, God is good. Let us thank Him for our food. Amen.